Go here. I'm going to call to order the regular St. Helena City Council meeting, Tuesday, October 8th, 2019. Please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And a roll call, please.
Mayor Ellsworth?
Here.
Vice Mayor Doring?
Here.
Councilmember Chateau?
Here.
Knudsen?
Present.
Koberstein?
Here.
Okay, we'll move to public forum, where members of our public are entitled to speak for up to 4 minutes on any item not on the agenda. Seeing no members of the public, unless somebody steps in at the last moment here, we'll move on then to the reports by staff and city council, future agenda items, and AB 1234 reports. And I will begin with our city attorney.
Thank you, Mayor. The City Council earlier met in closed session with respect to items that were on the closed session agenda. It had two pieces of labor negotiations. First, with its negotiations with the mid-manager employees and executive staff employees. No reportable action was taken. And then with respect to labor negotiations with firefighters and fire engineers. Again, no reportable action was taken. And then in the matter of Hall Vineland and Hall Vista LLC versus City of St. Helena, on a 4-0 vote, the City Council authorized the City Attorney to file a petition with the Court of Appeal challenging the trial court's decision to overrule the city's demur to the complaint that was filed in that action. Thank you.
Thank you. City Manager?
Two items tonight. First, a report out of closed session on September 26th. The council met in closed session to discuss city attorney services, and direction was provided to the city manager to prepare a contract and appointment to the city attorney with the firm of Best & Krieger. The city attorney's name is Kara Ueda. And so we anticipate that contract will be brought back to the council at the meeting of October 22nd.
Okay, and it's my understanding that Mr. Biddle will stay on with us on certain projects as we move forward?
That is correct.
Okay.
Is this a violation of the Brown Act to thank you for stepping in to the breach? And
thank you.
It's been a
Very
pleasure
welcome.
working with you.
It's been a pleasure working with you all, and I do know Karen. I know the firm of Best & Krieger. They're a good group. When I was in Emeryville, I actually worked with many of the attorneys of that firm that are now in their Sacramento office of Best & Krieger when they used to be with McDonough, Holland, and Allen. So it's a good group of people, and I know they'll serve you well.
Thanks.
And I too want to add our deep appreciation and look forward to continuing to work on the projects that we are working on together. So thank you very, very much. Okay, we'll move on to our finance director.
The second, one additional item relates to all of the chatter related to power shutdown. So at this time, we are anticipating that power will be shut down in St. Helena sometime late this evening or early tomorrow morning. The city issued a press release this afternoon related to forecasting that change and the power shutdown. There are also resources available that are provided in that press release. It's also posted on the city's website, and we emailed that out to customers that were on our distribution list. The county has opened an EOC, their EOC, their Emergency Operations Center. All communications that we will distribute to the community will be cleared through them to ensure a consistent message. After we issued our press release, the county issued a subsequent press release indicating that they have identified 5 locations for charging centers that will be open from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. beginning tomorrow. Those are at Pacific Union College in Angwin, Yountville Community Center in Yountville, Lake Berryessa Senior Center in Napa, Crosswalk Church in Napa, and Las Flores Community Center in Napa. We know that Steve's Hardware locally has announced that they will make available locations for charging. City Hall will have redundant power and be operational tomorrow, so we'll invite members of the public to stop by if they would like to charge, and we'll have charging stations for them at City Hall. And we will continue to provide updates as conditions change. And the library will be open. It will be open during daylight hours, so we would anticipate them closing closer to the end of the day. So they'll stay open even though the lights won't be on.
Okay. Ms. Mitz, our finance director.
Great, thank you. In anticipation of changing over to the bi-monthly billing cycles for utility billing, Mark and I have both been working with a local PR firm that's going to help us get the messaging out. So this is I think almost the final draft of the flyer. That's the reason I didn't make copies of it. This flyer is going to be going in the next utility billing insert, English on one side, Spanish on the other. In addition, we're going to have 3 more utility billing inserts with the information. The PR firm is also helping us push information out on Nextdoor, Facebook. We're using our communications checklist that was developed by the assistant to the city manager prior to her leaving. So we are planning on getting all of the information out to as much of the community as possible to make sure everyone's aware of the changes. We are also going to be bringing the CARES program back to City Council. I'm hoping for 10/22 meeting. It might be the first meeting in November, and that will also give the council a chance, an opportunity to update the CARES program at that time, and also see how the CARES program aligns with the new changes in the utility billing.
Thank you. Our city clerk? Is there any report from our police or library?
Mark already pointed pointed out that the library will be open tomorrow from 10 until sundown or dusk. We do have one of the city's charging things. We unearthed the solar panels, so we think we're ready. So we hope people will come, check out a book to keep themselves occupied while there's no power, and we're expecting, if people want to bring their kids, there's always the children's area open. So sorry I was running late. I was canceling the library board meeting for tomorrow, so very last minute change. So thank you.
Chris, does that mean that people can charge their phones when you say we had a charging?
Yeah, it's
At the library?
Yes, it was one that was gotten after the fires 2 years ago. So we've been charging it. It's ready to go. So
Okay, thank you. What about laptops? Can they bring laptops to charge or just phone?
I'm not sure if the laptops.
There's limited charging capability for the solar panels. You can charge laptops from them, but it's more meant for cell phones. City Hall also has one of the portable
The same thing.
solar panels. We have 5 of them within the city, so as long as they're sun out, we can keep them generating. So
Okay.
And laptops
you.
can be charged to City Hall.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. The St. Helena Police Department's ramped up a little bit for the PSPS. Should it go into effect, I have extra personnel going to work graveyard and day shift. And per the county, they're going to have designated call signs, which are different from their normal ones, so that we can track their hours for repayment.
I have a question about if folks have questions during hours that City Hall is closed, can they go to the window at the police station?
Absolutely. We will also have one of the small solar chargers there as well. I believe it only does 2 cords at a time. So the question with laptops and iPads, it'll probably service phones. You know, should there be time you could put an iPad on there, that'd be fine. But I don't see that happening if a lot of people need to charge their phones.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our planning department? Mr.
Nothing
Coe?
to report.
From our public works, Ms. Smithies?
Just lost my train of thought. I wanted to report out the citywide paving project is underway. Still, the paving went off the hitch last week on Spring Street, Montague Vista Court, and Grove Court. And then in another week or two, I believe up the first week of the 22nd, that we'll have the microsurfacing and slurring seal beginning, which will be on Paulson Court, Church Street, Money Way, Arrowhead Drive, and Hudson Avenues. So there will be additional notifications going out, especially with Money Way, since their business is affected. But just wanted to give everyone a heads up. Hunt Avenue sidewalk gap closures continuing. They're almost completed their stretch from approximately Edward Street down to Monte Vista Court. So a lot of work getting done there. I also wanted to notify council and that we had received from the USGS Geological Survey a thanks of appreciation to allow them to sample our wells, Stonebridge wells. We were one of the first agencies to allow another agency to start a baseline trend, and we started this in 2004. They now changed their modeling. They come every 5 years, and it's been 5 years they've been here. They're coming out here at the end of October, but they wanted to send a nice thank you to the city for allowing it. If anyone wants to read it, I'll pass it around. But it was just something that came in the mail, and I was wondering what it was, and they called yesterday saying, hey, this is what this is about, and I wanted to share that tonight.
Thank you. Councilperson Chateau?
I just wanted to note on the consent calendar is the resolution supporting sensible gun safety legislation and the reinstatement of a federal assault weapon bans. Thank you very much. I just wanted to call attention to that since it's on the consent calendar.
Very good.
And then also I attended our Tourist Improvement District meeting, and they spoke about Jingle All the Way, which is going to be 2 times as big this year. It's going to be a roller skating instead of ice skating. There's going to be DJ, more lights, more everything. It sounds like it's going to be a very fun holiday spirit that's going to start pretty early in November, into November, towards the end of November. There's also going to be a trolley. So just wanted to say this is all coming. Get ready, St. Helena.
Very good. Ms. Koberstein?
I have nothing.
Mr. Knudsen?
I wanted to point out, because he was very modest in the newspaper reporting of the incident, but the fire that was within city limits last week ago, the mayor played a huge role in both pointing out and then participating in the stomping out, literally, of the fire that was on John Rustin's property. And John's a great guy, and I want to encourage all citizens who are maybe watching or reviewing this tape that if you see something, please don't think anybody else has covered it. Do something yourself, and Mr. Mayor, thank you for following that precept in this example, because our hats are off to you. That could have been a terrible situation, and you helped bridge the gap between John's efforts and the fire and police arrival. So that's, I know it's sort of outside the purview of this meeting, but that should be publicized. That's it.
Thank you, David. Thank you. Mr. Doring. So I want to touch on the potential power shutdown. I think, the main thing is that we want to remain calm. We also want to remind everybody that we're all neighbors, and in situations like this, we're ready to help neighbors. We know that the police and fire emergency services are on alert. We'll know more as the evening progresses, and as tomorrow progresses. That information will be getting out to you through our email services, through Nixle, and as Lieutenant Hartley brought up, the window at the police station, if City Hall is not open, information can be obtained there. We also have message sign boards. We'll be as proactive as possible and communicating with the community as this progresses, and hopefully it will be shorter rather than longer. It's anticipated that the weather will be not so hot to need cooling stations, but if in any eventuality, the County Emergency Operations Center will direct us in those efforts if needed. Also, my understanding is that Grace Church will have redundant power and be able to accommodate folks there if there's a need for a place to gather. And so with that, we'll just stand together as a community as this comes forward, and we'll see each other through it.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Do we know how many of our businesses will be open? I think everybody just assumes none of them will, but some of them have power, correct?
I don't have an answer to the question specifically, but we can check in with the chamber in the morning, see if we can get some information out.
Like, for instance, this year, I believe Sunshine will be open, whereas it was not the last time.
Yes, my understanding is they have a generator, so some stores will be open, and perhaps after talking with the chamber, we can put something together so folks know what's available. And we also know Steve's Hardware has redundant power, and they've made themselves available.
Are we 100% certain that we will have no power tomorrow, or is this simply we've been advised that we need to be prepared?
We're anticipating power being shut down. So until it is, we're anticipating it, but the communication from the county is that we should expect it beginning tonight and perhaps in the hills before the valley, and we're anticipating in the early morning hours the entire region would be shut down by morning.
And if the power is for chance on at 6 in the morning, we might think that we've escaped the PG&Es.
Right, I'm looking at a wind forecast that's on a website now, and the wind looks like it would have picked up about midday today. It ramps up again tomorrow a little, and then it's not, the forecast I'm looking at is probably not the best one to look at, but it looks like it subsides by end of day Thursday. So that's the window I think that PG&E is looking at and that we've been consistently receiving communication on.
I was going to say PG&E's Damocles sword, but did I pronounce that correctly? Is it the sword of Damocles that's hanging above our head? Possibly.
Okay, and so with that, we'll all be ready, and information will get out as quickly as we can get it out, and we're working directly with the county as well. On some brighter notes, there's also an item on the consent calendar I want to just at least make mention of, that coming up on October 17th, next Thursday from 4:30 to 6:30 is our community potluck, which we invite everybody in the community to come down to. And this year is a special thank you to the Up Valley Family Center. And the Mike Greensill Jazz Trio will play, and the board members of the Up Valley Family Center will be judges in the bake-off contest. So please come down, and this is a chance for our entire community to get together and see each other, express gratitude, and have a nice evening, nice afternoon and evening. So that's October 17th. And then October 19th is the St. Helena Harvest Festival, the Pet Parade. So that's on Saturday the 19th. And so we also encourage everybody to come down and participate in that. So that being said, and then I want to very quickly touch upon the fire incident that Mr. Knudsen brought up. And we were fortunate. Mr. Rustin had seen the incident and was on top of it. I saw it from my house and got over there quickly, and there was a very quick response from our police and fire departments. And so it was sort of a combined effort, but it let us know that everybody in town needs to be aware, and if you see something, go check it out, and not assume that somebody else will be there. We were fortunate, and as I say, the fire and police got there quickly and got the situation contained. So with that, I will move on to our agenda, and we have nothing in presentations and public recognitions, nothing in staff briefings, so we'll go to consent items. I know that there's one item that wanted to be pulled, and that's item 8.6. This is the consideration and approval of a resolution authorizing a lease purchase of a vehicle from Enterprise Fleet. So if we can pull that one. Now, who's pulling that? Oh, I'm pulling it. I've been asked to. Yeah. And so I'll read through the rest if there's another one that wants to be pulled. 8.1, 8.2, 8.3, 8.4, 8.5, 8.7, 8.8, 8.9, 8.10, 8.11, and 8.12. Seeing no action to pull, I will entertain a motion to pass those.
Move approval of the consent calendar, except for the one you pulled.
And is there a second?
I second.
Vice Mayor Doring?
Yes.
Councilmember Chateau?
Yes.
Coberstein?
Yes.
Knudsen?
Yes.
Mayor Ellsworth?
Yes. And so that takes us to item 8.6, and this is prepared by April Mitz, the Finance Director.
Thank you. So this particular item was for the replacement of the current police department community services officer vehicle. It is currently a Chevy Colorado, so it's a small size truck, and we were looking to replace it with the same type of vehicle, a Ford F-150. The total contract price is $33,650. I did read the public comment on this and know the concerns about it not being potentially a flex fuel or a hybrid vehicle, and trying to look at a little bit of a greener fleet. So I discussed that with both the city manager and also Chris Hartley, and discussed some different options. And actually, I'm going to ask if Chris can come up here. We did find out that Ford is offering a hybrid F-150 in late 2020. So one of the recommendations that we'd like to make is potentially pushing off the purchase of this vehicle for next fiscal year, and just kind of seeing, because there are some issues with the current vehicle, but Chris feels confident it should be able to limp along for another year, but I'd like to turn it over to Chris.
Thank you, April. Speaking of our Chevy Colorado, it's a 2005. It's at the bottom third of the fleet right now. Like April said, we can get along with it for another year. There was some good public comment about being in compliance with what the city's passed or is trying to do with keeping a blue vehicle. We looked into that, and right now the only thing that is available that is either fuel-free or green or a flex vehicle is in a sedan. The reason we don't want to go to a sedan for the CSO vehicle is, yes, it's used by our parking enforcement officer, but that's only one of her duties, and it's only one of the uses of the vehicle. We use it for transporting evidence as recently as the Pattis burglary. The evidence that we collected from the scene completely filled up the entire bed of the pickup, which we had to take to Napa to have it processed. That's just one example. With some of the new laws and us being able to enact weapons restraining orders, if a citizen has a gun safe, does not give us permission, we have to take the whole gun safe. We've hauled 2 gun safes in that truck so far. Anything large that we have evidentiary that we need to have processed, we use the pickup for. Not to mention, our police department is also the animal control for the city. We recently had the 6 shepherds that were dumped at Sunshine. It took us several weeks to catch all the dogs, but we used that vehicle to transport the cages around, which we also have animal traps, which Vice Mayor Paul Doring's very familiar with. We abate raccoon problems, skunk problems, and we don't terminate these animals. We release them in the wild. We definitely don't want to transport a skunk inside a compartment of a vehicle other than maybe the bed of a truck. Also deceased animals. We do pick up deceased animals as well, and again, that's not something you want inside of a SUV. We haul our training supplies, all of our crime scene equipment. When we have a fatal accident, what we carry in the patrol cars is enough to establish the scene. But as far as the investigation goes, that vehicle is used to transport all of our investigative equipment out there. It's used for hauling our training stuff, our ammo for the range. We have not just targets, but we also have mobile range platforms that are loaded up and taken up there at the range because we can't secure that stuff up there. We use it for towing the bicycle rodeo trailer and the radar trailer. We transport a lot of the lost and found property. Officers go out and they find a bicycle. It won't fit in the SUVs, so they either have their partner go back and get the pickup, or if the CSO is working, she'll come and pick up the truck. Twice a year, we load that truck up with 20 or 30 bicycles to auction off. And I think that was just a misunderstanding. There was another comment made about why doesn't our CSO, or she's referred to as a meter maid a lot of times, walk her beat. Well, her beat is the entire city. She does walk, park on Many Way and walk up and down Main Street for the timed vehicle parkings. But if she's driving from one location to another and sees somebody parked in a blue zone, with our traffic, by the time she gets around the block to park, the vehicle's gone. So occasionally you'll see her double parked on Main Street or on Oak Street, making those type of enforcement stops. She also does the vehicle abatement over on Dowdell and Lafada. Trucks a lot of times like to dump their trailers there. Business owners and residents as well down there get frustrated when somebody's big rig trailer's been parked there for 2 or 3 weeks. She takes care of that as well. Blue zones, which obviously we know why those are there, but they're in Hunts Grove, they're out at Stonebridge, they're at Woodbridge, they're at all of our local grocery stores, plus all the businesses down there in the business district. Again, it's a 2005. It's at the bottom third of the fleet. So with this information and the community input, I made a phone call to Ford today, made contact with them, and he sent me a response. There is absolutely nothing out there that is completely blue right now in a pickup. There isn't. There are some flex vehicles out there, but next year they will have a hybrid. And according to this, it's a sure bet that we'll have to wait for the next generation F50 to arrive before we see the fully electrified versions. A hybrid version of the truck has been promised for 2020, and the current generation of the truck has been around since the 2015 model year, refreshed for 2018. The existing F-150 is likely to stick around for the 2020 model year, meaning the new truck seems poised to arrive in calendar year 2020 as a 2021 model. So I think it's in the best interest of everybody involved that if we can go another year with the vehicle that we have, that we do so. That way we're keeping with what both the city, the public, and the police department needs.
Thank you. Are there any questions from the council?
No, that was very informative. Thank you.
I guess my concern is more of a legal concern or public safety concern.
Mm-hmm.
In the interim, I mean, we've announced to the world now that we have a vehicle that has some faulty brakes and things like that, that in my mind present a safety hazard. What are we going to do to address that? Are we going to repair the vehicle so that it will last a year and be safe for this particular driver? Or I mean, you detailed a lot of uses of this vehicle, so it could be other drivers, but we want to make sure that the vehicle's safe, right, for the next year.
Absolutely. Okay. And again, the vehicle doesn't have any leaks at the moment. It's dependable. It's driven every day, but there is a problem with the brakes, and yes, we are going to address the brakes.
Okay. All right. I move that we table the item.
Okay.
I have a final comment for when it is brought up next year. The Chevrolet Colorado, which you currently have, is actually a midsize truck, and I think the Ford Ranger is the comparable, not the Ford F-150.
I'm glad you brought that up, council member. When we had the loaded gun safe in the back, it was definitely overloaded. And thank goodness we didn't hit any speed bumps or the front tires would have came off the ground. And we didn't have a long distance to go. But that's why we were looking at the half-ton.
So a slightly larger truck.
Correct.
The other thing that I think would be interesting to look at is maybe, in other regards, is thinking about sort of police bicycle. And it's not germane right now, but it's something that would be interesting to.
We do have those.
Yeah, I haven't ever seen a police officer in town on one.
Right.
So.
Years ago, we assigned officers to do it. It got to the point where they'd come back with mysterious flat tires, so on and so forth, and they spent more time in the shop than they did on the street. In recent years, we've let them volunteer to do it, and we get a lot of support during the summer months, especially on Graveyard.
Great. So that's always an option as well.
Yes.
All right. Thanks.
Okay. Is there any other comment before we?
Well, I just want to thank Pam Smithers for her comment. I think it's always good to remind us of our sustainability sections in our general plan, and I really appreciate your explanation, because the first question I had is, why do we need a truck? Well, now I know why we need a truck, and I appreciate the work you're doing. And
that's what we kind of gathered when we started receiving community feedback. It's about education and understanding what that vehicle's used for.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Very good. So shall we just move on? And I don't think we need a vote to table it. We do.
Yeah.
Okay. So we have a vote to table it. Do we have a second?
Second.
And a roll call, please.
Vice Mayor Doring?
Yes.
Councilmember Koberstein?
Yes.
Chateau?
Yes.
Knudsen?
Yes.
Mayor Ellsworth?
Yes. Thank you. Lieutenant. We'll move on now to our public hearings. Seeing none. Old business. We're at 10.1. This is discussion. Am I saying that correctly? Yes. Discussion of 4 options for CIP C20-01 St. Helena Library Roof Replacement Project. Direction to staff on preferred option and approval of a resolution authorizing the preferred option for CIP C20-01 St. Helena Library Roof Replacement Project And shall I move into the options or leave that to, would you like to take us through the options?
Well, I definitely can. Option 1 is to award a construction contract to Stronger Building Services for $440,000, $500, which is the asphalt shingles, which is not on the roof at this point in time, and authorize the Director of Public Works to approve change orders up to 10%. This is an increase of $117,000 to the CIP budget, so we would need to authorize the use of general fund reserves in an amount of not to exceed $114,000. Option 2 is award a construction contract to Stronger Building Services for the base bid for $598,000, which is similar to what's on there now, synthetic slate shingles. Authorize the Director of Public Works to approve change orders not to exceed 10%, and authorizing a CIP budget increase of $314,000, and authorizing the use of general fund reserves in an amount not to exceed $314,000. Option 3 is to reject all construction bids and consider option 4. Option 4 is to issue an informal bid for only the PVC flat roof replacement, which is approximately $120,000. The biggest increase that's notable on this project was the unknown asbestos underlayment on the current shingles, slate shingles on the which contributed to the high cost as well as the short time frame to get this project built. Stronger Building Services is available to do the project now and or even the flat roof. And so we're bringing, and there's another component of this is with the options presented to us by Nolan Tam that Mr. Presswich could provide more information on.
Right. So as you know, Nolan Tam is working on options related to the cost of rehabilitating the existing city library. But the council also asked for a concept of what would be the replacement cost of that building if you were to contrast the cost to update the building versus build a new building. So we have some early numbers, which I've shared with each of you on order of magnitude. These are not solid numbers at this point, but they are an order of magnitude that is a better number and a fairly reliable number. And if you have questions about those numbers, I'm happy to get into the details.
Are there any initial comments here from council?
Just have one. I'm sorry, you wanted. Is it typical to have an outside construction management company oversee what I consider? I mean, it's a little bit more complicated, but it's a roofing job, and I'm kind of wondering at the $66,000 item there. I could see there's other parts of this, like the asbestos part, but talk about that part because I found that to be unusual. But you know the business better than I do.
We added that. I added that in there, kept it in there just in case we need the staff resources, since I am down staff in our administrative office. But also, it's under a building construction permit, so technically the building official will be checking on the project. So that could go away. But we do need the asbestos monitoring, which would be through Nino Moore.
I have a question. What is the downside of option 4?
We're not sure if the flat roof's the complete culprit of the current leaks that are happening all over the facility. They seem to happen in that location particularly. We have our director of library, Chris Crichton, here to speak to the amount of water they received this past year. But it's highly suspect that it's both probably the pitched roof and the flat shingle roof, and the synthetic slate was probably the first that came out when we built the library, and it was notorious for failing within the first 15 years. So you have two issues going on.
And that was your question as well?
I have a further question. Is the synthetic slate that is contemplated in option 2, does that have a higher, compared to the original slate roof, does that have a higher ability to last?
Yes, it's a 50-year warranty roof, and it's been, I guess, proven ability. Da Vinci's it was also a cool roof, so the option we're going with is also a lighter material than what's currently on the library.
Interesting. Hey, the other question is, is the slate roof the original slate roof?
Yes.
So it's only failed 40 years into its life, which is actually how long are roofs supposed to last anyway?
Depends on what they were there. The real slate should last about 100 years.
Yeah, I
but-
can't imagine. But, real slate would be 100 year. So the idea is that if we do option 2, is that roof will last longer than an asphalt roof.
The asphalt's also a 50-year rating.
Oh, really?
Correct.
You can have an asphalt roof that lasts for 50 years?
But it may change the look of the building.
No, of course it would, but it's also as long-lived somehow, although that's hard to imagine, actually. Thank you.
I'm going to open it up.
I had one more question. Sorry, just one more. So what is the benefit of option 2? Why would we do the more money for, what do we get for option 2 for the more money?
You're keeping the current look of the building structure, and that's really, I guess, the basis of keeping the current design, because
Okay.
everyone loves how the library looks. But
I was going to open it up for Ms. Crichton if you have any input. No.
I have a question about where the leaks are.
Okay. Originally, at the beginning of the winter, we had a leak in our book drop room over a center office along the walkway. Those were all basically skylight related to that part of the roof, including my office. We also had an issue in our public bathroom lobby area. That's the one that we're questioning if it's because the roof is flat or if the leak is coming from somewhere else. There was a small leak in our young adult room, and by the front door there were a few small leaks. So, but the majority does seem to be the flat roof, which seems to be the main culprit.
And the flat roof is not slate.
no, it's currently a thin membrane type of roof that also failed before its lifetime, but the new one's plated for 30 years.
And did we have insurance or something, or any sort of guaranteed on the flat roof? We probably did not, right?
And we started doing patches to it.
We started doing patches to it.
Correct.
Huh. So the flat roof, I mean, you would expect that flat roof, water sits on a flat roof, it would figure out a way to,
Which seemed to be around the skylights.
on the skylights on the flat roof. Is there any place under the pitched roof where we have found
No, it seems to be, if it is, it's traveling.
it's traveling? Huh.
Yeah.
From a flat-roofed, flat section, possibly.
From a pitch section. That's our guess.
Oh, so
No
the
one's
pitch
sure
section, the
exactly where
water's
it's coming
flowing
from.
down the pitch section, ending up on a flat roof, and then it's
I've heard
possibly.
different things, along with some of the nails that are in the slate might be going too. So.
Oh, really?
And one of the recommendations with the flat roof is to pitch it just a little bit so it helps sheet off the rain. So that was a recommendation provided by the person, the firm, the contractor who didn't bid on this project that actually helped us with some patching this year. Recommended that we do a slight buildup so it does drain better instead of just puddling as it starts. With flat roofs start to pond when they're just.
Yeah, and there's a grade recommended as well. And for both of the proposals, the asphalt and the slate includes replacing the flat roof with a slightly pitched roof?
Yes.
Okay. Are there any drawings about what that might look like? No.
They were available online. The shingle itself, no. There's not we can get a sample of those, but they're available online.
And
products.
this work could be completed before the rains come, possibly?
That's what they informed us they could get started as soon as it was authorized. to
And
begin.
how long is the project for the asphalt and for the slate?
I need to check the contract. It's been a number of days. I thought it was 30 or 45.
30 or
working
45 days? Okay.
Ms. Gomerstein, do you have a? Thank you. Microphone.
I would favor moving ahead with option 4 and rejecting the bids we have, but I don't have a sense of what everybody else feels.
Because we haven't been abrogating the Brown Act. We haven't talked amongst each other, so we have no idea. That's good.
I tend to look at that option as a good option. Knowing that we have the Nolan Tam reports coming up, we're not quite sure how we're going to proceed. with that. And so this, to me, seems a middle path where we address some of the most challenging areas and see if that covers what we need. And that way, if there are big changes coming, we're not making a huge investment that is going to be taken, in a different direction. So I tend to lead towards option 4 as I'm looking at it.
If we do option 4 and then it doesn't work, are we to go back and do the big cost on top of what we've spent?
It would be already, so the request is, the option 1 and 2 always included that built up, so you'd be subtracting that amount, and it might get more favorable bids in the springtime coming up for the next summer season. That was one thing that we did note also with the time of year, the asbestos monitoring, because we did have mandatory walkthroughs with this project. There was about 15 contractors, so we only had 2 that actually bid on it.
Mr. Mayor, I'm just curious what your takeaway is from the numbers that we received. They're immense, in my view. Was there a message that you garnered from that is constructive in terms of what your recommendation would be with these options?
Are you referring to the replacement costs and upgrades to the buildings?
Correct.
The new buildings, the rehab to the library building is in the $14 to $15 million range when you project out the cost of constructing the building in approximately 2022, in September of 2022. That includes essentially all phases of the project, which is a big number, but at the same time is not too dissimilar from the costs that we had been projecting. But the new replacing City Hall with a new building or building a brand new library, both of those numbers are fairly significant. Fair to say more than double. And trying to do 2 brand new buildings may be difficult. So updating 1 and considering 1 additional new building may be easier. But these are conversations that you were intending to have later, and that's the challenge. So I don't want to. I don't think I want to limit your options in the future, because there are, the difference between a replacement building and the new building, while it looks fairly significant at the moment, the cost of tackling those numbers is really, there are a lot of paths to that.
Did the staff analyze to what extent we could use civic impact fees without having to tap into the general fund reserve?
Yes, that's included in the staff report. It's 11.6% can come from the from civic impact fees.
Oh, I didn't see that. Was that in the staff report? I'm sorry.
It is. Let me.
I mean, I trust you. Okay, that's fine. I just didn't see that.
You know what? My apologies. It's not in the staff report. It's actually in the resolution that was attached. But 11.6% of the total cost can come from civic impact fees.
Okay, thank you.
Can I say something? One of my concerns is if the building is reused, my recollection is that as a library, there are going to be additions to it, which in my mind mean you're always attaching new roofs in places, and I think that we may not get the full benefit of putting a brand new roof on if we have to redo some things because we are adding new wings or whatever they're going to be. So since we don't know where we're going, that's kind of why I'm settling on option 4.
Yeah, I agree.
Mr. Knudsen?
Sure, but the only question is it seems to me it's a library. We can't have a leaky library roof. But this informal bid, it's funny. I mean, we really have no idea where it'll end up. It could be delayed. Will it get done before the end of the year? That means it's going to be more expensive.
Ms. Smithies, do you have any thoughts on that in terms of making sure that something moves forward if it's an informal bid?
We have a lot more, we could turn it around a lot quicker. We could just repackage the portions of the project that are the flat roof portion, get it out to bid right now, advertise this week, well, maybe not this week, but maybe next week, get it out there, and get the contractors on board.
Okay.
Because we can do probably a 2-week bidding process, since it is local funds.
Mr. Doring?
Just make the motion that we reject the bids and proceed with option 4.
Second.
No, any roll call on that?
Vice Mayor Doring?
Yes.
Councilor Koberstein?
Yes.
Chateau?
Yes.
Knudsen?
Yes.
Mayor Ellsworth?
Yes. Very good. So we will move on now to item 10.2, and this is consideration of approval of a resolution rejecting the sole construction bid for the W-26 Phase 1 Upper York Creek Ecosystem Restoration and Aquatic Habitat Enhancement Project. And this also goes to Ms. Smithies.
Yeah, this is a difficult one. The purpose of this item tonight is to reject the sole bid on the Upper York Creek Dam Removal Project. The bid recommended to be rejected tonight relates to the construction of sediment traps of Phase 1 that serves as mitigation measures for the actual dam removal project of Phase 2, which was planned to be constructed by the end of October 2020. The city received all 3 regulatory permits for Phase 1 in July and had 30 days to finalize plans and satisfy requirements of the permit conditions to meet the 2019 construction season of August through October. This gave us limited time frame required for the concurrent agency and private landowner review of the plans when bidding began August 14th. Usually you'd want more time in advance of that. The city received 1 bid for the Phase 1 construction on September 6th. However, permitting agencies determined that the project could not be built to the full scale as specified and permitted did not allow the project to proceed. The staff report provides additional details relating to this project design issues, and consequently, staff is recommending rejection of the sole bidder. The city and its consultants are meeting with regulatory agencies on 10/17 at the fire station next Thursday to consolidate the project back into the 1 construction season and complete the project by the original or the revised original date of October 2020. 100% plans and permits will need to be completed by spring of 2020 so we can advertise prior to the construction season of August and October, a lot more in advance, hopefully, and than this year. The benefit of going as 1 project is that there should be cost savings with 1 project requiring biological monitoring, the labor compliance that will require, we have a consultant on board to do that, construction management team, and 1 contractor to do all the work at once. I'm sure they'll have subs, but there is some cost savings efficiency with consolidating the project back into 1. Originally, that was split into 2 to try to get the project out to bid sooner, but we're here where we are. So, do you have any questions?
Are there any initial council comments? Mr. Doring, Mr. Koberstein, Mr. Knudsen? Ms. Koberstein?
This is super depressing and frustrating. Yeah. I maybe we need a special meeting to bring the community up to speed. My ears are burning. People are talking to me about this. I don't know. It's frustrating, isn't it? It's a blight at this point on our city to be stuck. We're like in purgatory. we aren't through yet.
I want to check in with Mr. Presswich. We're working on a meeting for this Friday, I believe, with Senator Dodd to discuss how to continue working with the regulatory agencies to make sure that we're on a path here.
So there are times when it's appropriate to seek some support at the state and federal level, and we're working with state and federal permitting agencies. And this is one of those times now, I think, at this point in time where we've had preliminary conversations with them in the wake of this issue. and they've extended a helping hand. They're willing to, and they're very willing to help us and share the city's interest in advancing the project to completion. And we do have a meeting scheduled for Friday. We'd like to have the mayor and the vice mayor if their schedule permits, and I think the city clerk is working on all of our calendars. Some of us had some time yesterday to meet with Senator Dodd personally, and I know 2 council members, maybe 3, had conversations with him yesterday about that, as I did. And so I think both Senator Dodd and Representative Thompson will be very helpful in ensuring that when the project is under review by the permitting agencies, that the clock, that we focus on not using the entire shot clock for the review, but that this project is prioritized, and that this small city can move forward with the project and ensure that we go to bid in the spring and are prepared and poised to move to construction by August, if not earlier.
And this is an instance where I'd like to thank Mr. Biddle for his work in terms of keeping us with the right footing and properly engaged on this. This is a setback, but it in no means means that things are not moving forward, and we will continue to move forward. I want to thank you for hanging in there with this.
It's a setback, but it's also an opportunity to combine the 2 phases so that at the end our time could be okay. We could be on track.
That's a good point. That's a good point. So with that, I would open it to public comment, seeing our Jesse if there. Otherwise, there's nobody here. Is there any other council comment?
I would like to, I don't know what the process is, Mayor Ellsworth, but I would like to sort of have a way to get updated. Is it every council meeting? Is it every month? Is it something, I mean, so that we're demonstrating to the community that we are really focused on getting this done in 2020? Is there something that could be appropriate?
Could I suggest perhaps we itemize this as a discussion item under staff update on every meeting?
I think that's
we'll just put it on the agenda until it's finished.
I think that's a good way to go. Is there any other comment? So with that, I will look at the staff recommendation. Is there a motion?
I move that we approve a resolution rejecting the sole construction bid for the W26 Phase 1 Upper York Creek Ecosystem Restoration and Aquatic Habitat Enhancement Project.
Second.
And a roll call?
Councilmember Shuto?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Doring?
Yes.
Councilmember Knutson?
Yes.
Copperstein?
Yes.
Mayor Ellsworth?
Yes. And with that, that is the end of our meeting, and I will adjourn the meeting.